Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thanks for joining us today for our eWEEK session. And today's guest is Dan Rogers. Dan is president of Rubrik. And Rubrik is a very ingenious storage and data protection company based here in Silicon Valley. Dan, welcome.
Well, it's great to be here, Chris, and looking forward to spending time with your viewers.
Yeah. And Dan, thank you. And tell me a little bit about your background real quickly. I know you came from a bunch of know-nothing companies.
Yeah, no, I spent the last 4 years at ServiceNow. I was the CMO of ServiceNow, helping build that into one of the fastest growing software companies in history, as you alluded to there. And then before that, I spent some time at Salesforce, and then I was early on at Amazon Web Services. So yeah, I had a great run, but I'm really excited to be at Rubrik at this juncture. You know, it's such a phenomenal time in the industry. You know, you and I just talked about, the explosion of data and the creation of data. It's like we're creating more data than ever before as a global economy. You know, a funny stat, I think in the last month, we created more data than we did in the entire last year. So this explosion of data management is really coming into its prime. And that's really where Rubrik comes in. So I'm looking forward to sharing the story today.
Right. It's all about data. It's all about protecting it, making it accessible, and keeping it for business purposes and not to be let into the hands of the ne'er-do-wells out there, and there are many of them. What does Rubrik, Dan, what does Rubrik bring to the table that sets it apart from its competitors?
Yeah, well, let me tell you about some of the trends that are happening in the industry and then how Rubrik fits in. The first one is really around automation. This idea that, wow, you have this explosion of data, but if you're trying to manually protect and manage this data, it's becoming untenable and you're missing your kind of SLAs. Number two trend is around cloud. That more and more of these applications aren't just on premises, they're also in the cloud. And you need a solution around managing your data that spans between those two worlds. And then the third real trend is there's a lot in this data. There's a lot of risky stuff in this data. And as you alluded to before, you really need to understand what's in that data. You need to be able to protect it from the bad guys. Otherwise, you're exposing yourself to enterprise risk with this tsunami of data. So this is where Rubrik comes in. Rubrik is about helping companies become data-forward enterprises. And what that means is we're going to capitalize on these trends and replace these legacy solutions that are out there that just aren't fit for the task today. You know, let's look at any of those trends, right? So automation. The first thing that Rubrik did is we created a single SLA-driven policy engine. And as you and I were talking about before, in a lot of companies today, they have maybe 50, 60, 70 enterprise applications. Well, each one of those requires its own set of backup jobs around how you're going to retain that information, how you're going to recover from this, what is your archiving policy, what are you going to do with your fulls, synthetic fulls. And so you have a myriad of jobs. And in one of the customers, that we replaced a legacy solution on, they had 2,500 jobs a day.
Wow.
That is a heck of a lot of manual work. There's a lot of people that are thinking about nothing but how do I back up and recover associated with that application, with this application. Hey, have you got the same policy as me? I've got the same. What are we doing with the tapes? Where's the archive go? The chances of error are very, very high. And in fact, the chances that you have a high fidelity backup protection is very, very low. And you come to realize that at the wrong point, unfortunately, with these legacy solutions. So imagine replacing all that, single SLA policy, do a few swipes and clicks of what your policies are. Literally, you can set, maybe five settings, discover all your applications, and apply the policies to every single application. Literally replace 2,800 jobs with one screen and 5 kind of clickers.
And you were saying, Dan, too, that the administrator was saying, "Is this it? Am I done?" What?
Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. When I was learning all about Rubrik, I spoke to one of the customers, and they shared that experience during POC that they'd actually, tested the solution, and they kind of said, "Wait, where are all my jobs gone?"
Right.
And it's almost like they wanted to hug the jobs because that's what they'd become used to. And the reality is, they just don't need that anymore. So imagine now you have this SLA policy-driven framework, and now you can extend that because we have an API-first platform. So you can easily extend those policies into other things that you're building, whether that's data sets that you want to build for any application developers, whether that's core backup protection that you want to do in a new site as you stand up a new site. For example, Home Depot, rolled out Rubrik across all of their stores. They needed API first because they wanted to automate the new store setup. Boom, easy to do. You can just set up those same policies using API. Just kind of, and realize automation, the same kind of automation dream that, we saw at ServiceNow. You can create these simple workflows to automate what was previously a heck of a lot of manual work. So automation, kind of big part of our core platform. And then the second part, is this app awareness. This idea that, okay, so you've got all this data. Wouldn't it be great if you could do more with the data? And in these legacy solutions, they don't really understand the data. The data is opaque. So the data is just kind of sitting there as almost what you call dumb data. But imagine you could understand the who of the data, who changed the data, who's accessed the data, the where of the data, where is the data, the when of the data, when did it change, the what of the data, what type of files does this pertain to? And you capture all of that in kind of this metadata ledger. Well, now suddenly your data is alive. Now, when you create these policies around your data, it's very easy to do things with the data, whether that's globally search for the data, particular file types, batches of files, categories of files, or the more advanced things that we're doing around ransomware protection, around enterprise risk management. And suddenly this data comes alive and it becomes a real asset for the company that they can leverage. This is this idea of a data forward enterprise instead of really data backward enterprise with legacy. So those are a couple of the hallmarks of our platform. And of course, it's cloud ready. So that means you can easily manage those workloads. That same SLA policy you can apply to cloud workloads as well, not just on premises. All right, so those are some of the things that are really unique about us.
Rubrik is also known as a very security-friendly data protection storage backup solution because of the components that are built into it from the beginning. Right now, of course, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and you're seeing a trend that is not a good trend at all. And this is that malware and hackers are becoming more active right now. Why is that, do you think? And also, what is Rubrik doing to protect against that?
Yeah, no, one of the things that really, I'd say, disgusts me actually during this kind of time of global pandemic is the rise of ransomware. And it is a sad fact that these bad actors are, leveraging, taking advantage of this moment and holding hostage to companies, including many of the healthcare providers, actually, which is one of the most tragic things. So, Rubrik is a great partner for companies in need. We built the solution, of course, with end-to-end encryption as a foundation. But then the other piece that we built from design is this idea of immutability. This idea that once you've backed up the data, we want nothing to be able to change that data. The object is kind of impermeable. Mm-hmm. And that is very different than any of the legacy providers. What happens with the legacy providers is, they'll have a cyber attack. The cyber teams are doing their very best to, maintain the attack, and they find out that some of the data has been encrypted, and they, they're asked to pay the ransom. They go to their backup team and they say, "Hey, buddy, you got to help me out. We're in dire straits here. Can you just pull up the backup?" And the backup team often says, "Uh-oh, it's been encrypted as well." And so the cyber criminals are getting a lot smarter because they're going straight into the backup because they knew that was the last line of defense. With an immutable architecture, which is really something that Rubrik uniquely brings to the table, it's not even possible. It's not the same file system as your current storage. So we have the immutability. But moreover, we recognized that we could do much more than this because we had the metadata. So we introduced an application called Radar. And Radar basically detects anomalous behavior. Again, looking at that metadata, people are trying to access files or unusual behavior around changes in files. And we can actually pinpoint exactly when, a ransomware attack happened and what files that pertains to. And because you have the immutability, you now have complete protection of those things. You can instantly restore. So fortunately, a company called Seattle Genetics, they're doing some amazing research. They have Rubrik as a solution. They had a ransomware attack, and they were actually able to recover instantly and not have to pay the bad guys, as it were. So that's the same thing with City of Durham. They went public and kind of saying, wow, it's a local government that, thanks to Rubrik, they didn't have to, succumb to the ransomware attacks that they were facing. And they provide critical services to citizens, during these times. So it's been, really lovely story actually for Rubrik to be able to help during these times around ransomware.
Right.
But it's the same idea. Because we have this amazing architecture and the metadata, we're going to be able to provide more and more of these kind of services to companies to leverage their data. The other one is kind of around risk and compliance. I know we talked about that a little bit, earlier. Well, companies are actually at risk with their data because it has a lot of PII in it often. Oftentimes, personally identifiable information, and they often don't know where that is. Or with our solution, we actually can upload a set of policies, whether that's, GDPR, or whether that's California privacy, whether that's, HIPAA, whether that's any of the government requirement. Upload the policies, see what data types that pertains to, scan through all of your backup data and tell you exactly which files have that kind of data in them. So imagine that's really like having a magnifying glass and being able to say, you might want to look at these files. They seem to have kind of PII in them.
Right.
And it's all in the spirit of getting more out of your data. So you have explosion of data, and now we want to help you get more out of it.
Right. Rubrik is a great example of a next-gen company that has looked at what the legacy systems offer, has been innovative, and has been connecting dots that needed to be connected for a long time. And it's a very impressive company. There's no question about it. And you're looking far ahead at what we need and providing it for customers. So congratulations on that, Dan. Really.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the discussion today.
Yeah, I wish we had more time, but we have limitations, so sorry about that. So Dan Rogers, President of Rubrik, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Chris.
And for everybody listening along on eWEEK eSpeaks, thank you very much and have a great rest of your eWEEK. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.